All right, what we've got here is this is my, as I'll show, this is my new, that's the AL-346V lathe. As you can see, that's a Hafco. It's quite a nice machine. The only problem is that I went to do a 16 TPI thread, and when you look down the chart for 16 TPI there, you set it up on different gears, etc. But the main thing is it's a 24 tooth gear on the top, and then it's got a Z1, which is Z1 is a 48, which means that one there is your 24 and that's your 48 tooth gear. The only problem is when you want to run a 16 TPI, that gear there has to sit flush with this one, which means you take that off, there's a spacer there, just there, and then you take that spacer off, there's a keyway behind it, you take the keyway off, then you're supposed to put the keyway back in, put the space back in, and then the gear on top, then your lock tab. The only problem is that it doesn't work. You can't take that off and even line that gear up, because all the actual spacer is not right, won't go back on. So what I have to do is modify it with a new spacer system and a new keyway, so that this gear at the moment is running on a 120 tooth, which is behind there, and it's a 127 on the outside. So because that's supposed to run on 127, that gear is adjustable, of course. So I'm going to put a new keyway, make a special spacer that'll go on the back side of it in there. I'll just try and, yeah, anyway, it goes in behind there, which will bring this gear flush on there. Then you do it up, then I can run those particular imperial threads as well. So, and then I'm not sure when I put it back in again, I have to see how deep that goes in, and probably make a small spacer so it goes back onto the 127, then swap the spacer systems over depending on when the gear has to come in and out. Occasionally the 24 tooth will come here and that will go up there, so it has to be interchanged. So that's our little project at the moment. Now these are normally your change gears, so there's no problem taking these off. They're quite simple anyway. Let's take that off and put it down there for the moment. And this part here is the adjustment for when you change your gears around. So one side's 127, the other side's 120, depends what ratio it is, and then you can swap these around as well. Then that has to be adjusted to suit, otherwise it won't fit. Now that is the little lock tab on here, which I'll remove and show you. So what that consists of is you've got your nut, your lock washer, and then you've got the spacer on here. Now the spacer has got like a half round groove in it, and if I can turn that, that is our gear with the woodruff key inside. Right, so that's how it goes on. Generally put it with the numbers out so you know what gear you're putting on. Now this particular woodruff key here, if I can get him out, there we go. That's just like a round side on each one there, one here. That goes in there. Now the gear is supposed to go right on, which is fair enough. Like when you've got that right on there, that goes right in, that's not a problem. And that actually, whoops, will sit on this spacer here, that's not a problem. But when you want to match it up with this gear, it has to sit on the outside. Now the problem there being is that spacer there with that has to first, according to this type of setup, has to go on first. Once that's in, then this keyway fits against that point there like so, and it fits in the groove here, but it won't go in because it's a wrong width on it, and plus on top of that the actual gear only meshes about halfway into the gear, so I have to make a space that will fit over a wood rough key. I'm going to put a longer wood rough key in there. I'll have a spacer over the top of that, then I'll make it so the gear comes out and sits flush with the main gear, and then when I want it the other way around, as in coming off the 120, then I'll just take that back off and put another spacer on the outside to lock it back up. But what we're going to do now is, where that spacer, that half groove, you can see it there I hope, where that would normally sit up like the groove inside of a groove there, what we're going to do is I'm going to make another bushing or spacer which will take in the overall OD, which includes the actual wood rough key and the base down here. Alright, what we ended up doing was we took out the edge off here, put a different wood rough key that would fit right in as far as it'll go. We put the gear back on, and I've made this spacer up, and as you can see I've cut a keyway inside it. Now that, by all rights, that's one-handed, yeah. See, now that goes on like that. Now once that is on, we've got our lock washer which goes back onto here, like so. You have to excuse the hands, I've only got one on the camera section, one on here. So we've got our keyway or key, Allen key. Whoops. Anyway, so that'll go on there, and then what I'll do is I'll just put this gear back on, and then I'll be back in a second. So now what we've got the spacer on here with the lock on it, so when we need to, and I need to change the that gear there, which is a 24 with the 48, because what happens, you've got a 120 down the back head and you've got the 127 out the front for your different ratios. So when those two are moved over, or this one here has to be brought out, then that spacer will be put behind the gear, then the lock washer will hold it back on. Yeah, and yeah, I'll just press the quick go, and as you can see it works. Alright, hope you enjoyed that little tiny mod. And that's a little tiny modification on the, as you can see, the AL-346V for victory.